Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today we're talking about the top 10 most effective Japanese weapons. So for this list we're going to look at melee weapons used by either samurai or ashigaru, and also they will be Japanese specifically. What I mean by that is that we'll have a separate list for Japanese ranged weapons and a separate list dedicated specifically to traditional Okinawan weapons. But if you like samurai, history, romance, combat, armor and weapons, then please make sure to subscribe to my channel, become a noble one, and click the notification bell to never miss an upload. Now without further ado, let's get to it. Number 10. Tanto. Tanto literally means short sword. It basically is a traditional Japanese knife. Now, tanto is a battlefield weapon, even though it's small. At first, before the katana and wakizashi, so the daisho, became popular, it was brought into battle together with the tachi, so the precursor of the katana. The tanto is a very good weapon because in a battlefield, if you get real close with your opponent and he's fully armored, well, if you manage to use your jujutsu skills to put him on the ground and you need to subdue an armored samurai, use your tanto to stab through the areas that are not fully armored, like the joints, like under the armpit, or even through the face or under the throat protection. The blades could be both single-edged or double-edged. At number 9 we have the wakizashi. Wakizashi is the shorter version of the katana, which was usually worn together with the katana, at least as far back as the 15th century. The name is based on two kanji, waki, which has several translations including armpit, but it also translates side, and zashi means to insert, so we could translate it as side inserted, so basically a side sword. The wakizashi is a little bit of an in-between the tanto and the katana, but it is closer to the katana in its construction. It was an excellent sword for the samurai to carry because already the katana is a backup weapon. Basically, the wakizashi was a backup to the backup, meaning that if for whatever reason you lost your main battlefield weapon, which could well be a bow, and then you also lost your katana, you still aren't unarmed. You would still be able to defend yourself. And in town, a wakizashi would give you that extra reach in case you were attacked indoors. Because one thing that is important to think is that even though the samurai carried always their katana with them, they couldn't wear the katana indoors because they would start hitting stuff with the scabbard. So usually as the samurai would go indoor, they would leave their katana, but they would keep their wakizashi just in case, let's say, a thief or an assassin were to enter the room, they could still defend themselves with the wakizashi. Number 8. Ono. Ono is just a Japanese word for axe or hatchet. Keep in mind that this word is used both for this weapon or for its tool version. In this case, we're focusing on the actual battle version. Usually the ono would be associated to the Buddhist warrior monks, so the sohei, also called yamabushi, who would reside in the mountains. But there are several woodblock prints that show samurai using ono in battle or carrying ono with them for the purposes of using them as main weapons. Specific battlefield ono are a rarity. This is not a weapon that you would find very often on a battlefield, and to me they look rather threatening. They would have a large head with a very convex cutting edge, and some ono could be as big as a man. The nodachi is instead the bigger version of the katana, although it's not just bigger in the sense that it's longer, but it also has a more pronounced curvature. No in this case means field, the second one means fat, and the third one means sword. That's the kanji for katana. So we could say fat sword for a field, or even great sword if you want, particularly if you use the word odachi, which instead means big fat sword. The nodachi was a battlefield weapon only, and I think that that's one of the reasons why the word field is in the name. A nodachi wouldn't be something you would just wear in town for personal defense. Katana would be great for that, but not a nodachi. Nodachi is a specific battlefield weapon, and there are some kenjutsu styles that specifically focus on the usage of nodachi, and I have a couple of videos dedicated to that, and if you're interested I'll leave a link in the description. Usually nodachi focused kenjutsu styles focus on higher stance guards, most likely making use of the weight of the weapon coming down from a high ready stance. Alright, now before moving to the next weapon, I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor who made this video possible, World of Tanks. World of Tanks is a massive multiplayer game that you can play for free. It is accessible to anyone, and it's perfect for all of those who really like tanks and take part in a furious armored offensive series of battles. Earn experience, modify and upgrade your tank, creating a steel beast ready for any challenge. There is a huge tank arsenal, tank destroyers, artillery, light, medium and heavy tanks. Devise a battle plan, destroyed the competition in over 40 battle arenas. Now the game has over 500 different tanks that you can use, and if you add the code TANKTASTIC, you can get a T127 tank for free, 500 goals and 7 days of premium access. Make sure to use the link in the description below to download the game for free and have fun. Number 6. Katana. Now the katana is a very famous weapon. Now the reason why I put it in front of the Nodachi is because it seemed to be preferred as a bladed implement by the samurai class anyways. Yes, some samurai use the Nodachi, but having held and used both a katana and a Nodachi, I have to say that I personally would rather have a katana with me rather than a Nodachi, simply because the Nodachi, yes, it gives you a heck of a range advantage, but still it is rather unwieldy. And history kind of tells us that the katana was the favorite backup weapon of the samurai class, and the samurai, well, all they did was basically battle, particularly during the Sengoku period. And again, a katana can be used for personal defense, self-defense as you're traveling through the streets. And it's interesting how styles such as Yaijutsu work on the idea of drawing the sword and attack at the same time, which kind of stresses the idea of having to use this sword for self-defense as well, not just on a battlefield situation. The katana is a very good weapon, and that's why it is number 6 on this list. Number 5. Kanabo. Now the Kanabo is a monster weapon. There are several versions and it comes in multiple varieties, some being wooden with nails and spikes, others being entirely metal. It can also be called a Tetsubo. Kanabo means metal stick, whereas Tetsubo means iron stick. Most likely two different ways to say the same weapon. Some of these Kanabo could be one-handed, but the most impressive ones are the big ones, some of which can be as tall as a man. Of course, a top-heavy weapon, it would be used not only to crush your opponent's bones. Of course, if you hit someone in the head, you will crack their skull open. But even if your opponent was wearing full armor, then this weapon would be used as an anti-armor weapon. So it's very versatile, because a hit from a Kanabo in your head might cave in part of your helmet, and still the energy would transfer to your neck, might still put you out of action. Number 4. Nagamaki. The Nagamaki is a really interesting weapon. It's an in-between a sword and a polearm. You have the blade of a katana mounted on basically what could be considered a triple handle. And generally speaking, although proportions vary, to be a true Nagamaki, you need to have half of the weapon consisting of the blade and the other half consisting of the handle. Nagamaki meaning long wrap. This weapon was used by the samurai class, and there is a little legend about Uesugi Kenshin, the daimyo of the province of Echigo, who liked this weapon so much that he armed his entire special guard of retainers, so samurai, with Nagamaki. Having so much extra handle, I think, is going to solve some of the mass distribution and weight distribution problems that I personally have experienced handling a Nodachi. Basically what a Nagamaki is similar to a Nodachi, but it has more handle, and I think that that's going to help out with the balance of the weapon. A little fun fact, in the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, and the Two Towers, the High Elves are using a weapon very similar to the Nagamaki. Number 3. Bisento. With the Bisento, we're already in the full realm of pole weapons. For the translation, well, it's a little strange because again at the end we've got the kanji for katana, the kanji in the middle means sharp. The first kanji usually translates brow, like eyebrow. Now the long shaft gives you a reasonable range advantage, and the big thick blade is going to be able to open crazy deep cuts onto your opponent. You could think that it's an in-between a pole to which you attach basically a scimitar. Number 2. Naginata. With the Naginata we have one of the most popular pole weapons, and again popularity in usage. The fact that professional warriors would choose a Naginata gives me a hint as to its effectiveness. The difference between a Naginata and a Bisento is the fact that a Naginata has a blade that is more similar to that of a katana. It is longer, it is thinner, and therefore it probably has less mass towards the end, which makes it more of a nimble weapon. Combine that with extreme reach advantage, you have a cutting implement that allows you to stay at a safe distance. It was used both by the Ashigaru and by the samurai class. I've always been fascinated by the Naginata. I find it to be a fearsome weapon, and we see it represented in action all the time in Japanese iconography. The name is made of 2 characters, the last one still being the character for katana, so sword, and the first one the character for the verb nagu, which means to mow down or to scythe down. So basically it's a mowing sword or scythe sword. And now at number 1 we have the most effective weapon in my opinion, the Yari. it's basically a spear. Yari could have several possible lengths, some being extremely long, and also loads of different possible customization for the spearhead. Yari is mostly a thrust dedicated weapon, the character simply meaning spear. It is an ancient weapon, mostly derived from original Chinese spears. We see it universally, it's ubiquitous, used constantly on the battlefield, and even more so during the Sengoku period. They were particularly resistive, very strong. Some Yari blades had an extremely long tang, sometimes even longer than the sharpened portion of the blade, firmly inserted into the wooden shaft, making it nearly impossible for the blade to fall or break off. Also, shafts not only came in many different lengths, depending on personal preference, but also different widths and shapes, usually made of hardwood and covered in lacquered bamboo strips. They could be oval, round or polygonal in their cross-section. The Yari gives you the same range advantage as any other pole weapon that was used in feudal Japan, but it being thrust specific, it would be very difficult to defend from several Yari attacks, and that is why it takes number 1 on this list. Alright, number 1, well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up, and if you're not yet members of this community, become a number 1. Subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. Also, don't forget to use the link in the description below to download for free World of Tank and use your code TANKTASTIC to get your TANKTASTIC to get your free T127 tank, 500 gold and 7 days of premium access. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.